Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to Sovereign Submission Podcast. This is the podcast for men who want to explore an alternate perspective on masculinity where they fully surrender into the experience of submission and explore what it means to be a man who chooses to let go of needing to be in control of everything in order to discover and walk through life with their mission and purpose fully embodied through their surrender. Today I want to talk about what it means to be an emotionally mature, submissive man. Because the truth of the matter is, submission is something that requires a level of emotional strength and fortitude and awareness that calls on a man to be able to give up the traditional narratives of control that he's been taught he needs to have in modern society. And one of the questions that inevitably comes up with these conversations is, why would a man want to give up control? And the answer to that is very simple. We already are in a situation where in so many different areas of our life, we're expected to be in charge, to take the lead. You go into a job and it's expected that you're going to be in the lead as far as your job goes, that you're going to be a good provider, that you're going to do all the other things. And in many other areas of your life, this follows through. And the question that I think often shows up is that men often end up asking, well, where can I surrender and let go? And for some men, this ends up happening through porn, or it ends up happening through video games, or it ends up happening through alcohol or drugs. But that's not really submission or surrender. That is just numbing yourself in order to escape the pressures of life. And it doesn't work out in the long run. It just becomes a numbing behavior that you do because it's a convenient way to try and protect yourself from the pressure that surrounds masculinity. And I see a lot of men's coaches out there who will say, you have to be the leader. You have to take charge. And I'm a contrarian in that regards. I don't think that men need to take charge or be the leader in every aspect of their life, and I don't think that their women automatically want that from them. I think a lot of times society says that that's what women want, and that men need to do that. And so women say, well, maybe I do want that. And that's not necessarily the case. I think a lot of men end up saying, well, this is expected of me, so I guess this is the way I need to be. But they do it reluctantly. And it doesn't help when we have so much pressure to perform leadership without really examining or exploring what it means to be a leader. Now, I've actually gone and taken some leadership courses, and in some areas of my life, I still very much am exploring what it means to be a leader from a place of service, a place of stewardship, as opposed to a place of dominance and control. But what I see in general is that there's this notion that men have to be in control. And I don't think all the men's coaches out there who are putting out this message mean for that to be the case, but I think they just don't know any better. And so they end up going with that particular narrative. What I would offer to you in return as an alternate perspective is that you don't need to be in control of everything, and that one of the most important things that you could possibly do is actually surrender the notion that you really even have any control. Control is illusory. There is a very true sense of reality that really, when under the right conditions, we discover how little control we actually have. We build up an illusion of control in our lives because it seems like that is a very easy thing to do. So in your everyday life, you might be like, yeah, I've got this routine. I go to work, I pay my bills, I take care of all these other things. And yet, even in that routine, what I would urge you to do is to spend a day really exploring how much control do I actually have? And how much am I telling myself that I have control? How much does me trying to take control, to lead, actually lead to a genuine sense of satisfaction, awareness, and presence in my life, versus just trying to perform a role because that's what I've been told is expected of me? I don't think that performative leadership is true masculinity. I think performative leadership is actually emasculating men because it's forcing men into roles that they don't necessarily want to be in. And the more we cling to the notion that men should behave a certain way or act a certain way or try to embody a certain perspective, the more we are actually taking away from the genuine presence that is desired of us, not only from the women in our lives, or the people around us, but even from within ourselves. And what do I mean by presence? I mean someone who shows up fully recognizing that he's not in control of everything, and instead of trying to be in control, he lets control go. He surrenders the idea that he has control of every situation. And instead what he does is he operates from a place of presence, awareness, and responsiveness. He responds to what's around him, and he responds in a way that is consciously chosen. A man who is fully in integrity with himself is a man who doesn't need to be in control of everything. And he doesn't need to try and get the approval of other people. And this is the problem with performative leadership, is that really performative leadership is just another nice guy behavior that is being put out there, and it's being masked as true masculinity. What do I mean by nice guy behavior with performative leadership? After all, if I'm supposed to lead and take charge, how is that being a nice guy? Well, if you're leading because you're hoping that she's going to want to be with you more or fall in love with you or spread her legs or do any of the other things that you hope will happen, that's not genuine leadership. That's performative leadership. That's nice guy leadership. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there peddling that and passing it off as genuine, empowered masculinity, when in fact it isn't. Reality is that genuine, empowered masculinity is in presenced masculinity. Now, for some men, that might come from a place of dominance. And so if that's you, great, you know that. But for some men, it doesn't. And a man who desires to submit or surrender isn't giving up his sovereignty. If anything, he's claiming it on his own terms, because what he's doing is he's offering a sacred yes to himself as opposed to saying yes to everyone around him. When a man is operating from performative leadership, what he's really doing is he's saying yes to other people in the hopes that by leading and showing up a certain way, he'll get the relationship that he wants. It's another covert contract that's in place. And it's a hidden assumption, really, that if I do things this way, if I perform masculinity in this way, then she's going to want me. I think there's a central truth, which is that I've discovered through the act of surrender and submission, which is that I have to necessarily speak up for my needs and wants, and I need to have very clear boundaries around what I want. And this has actually led me to a grounded expression and form of masculinity, because I am fully aware of how I choose and want to show up for myself. And what I see with a lot of men is that they are giving that up because they're trying to perform masculinity in a very specific way that they're being told is the right way. And it's not. So you may be saying, okay, Taylor, well, what's the difference here? Are you telling me how to perform masculinity? And my answer is no. Because again, there are some men who are going to watch this and their response is going to be like, I like being in control. I like being dominant. This is something I want. Well, then that's you saying yes to yourself. You're not saying yes to someone else. You're saying yes to yourself. And that's really important. There are other men who will watch this who might be like, yeah, I don't always want to be in control. I don't want to always feel like I have to be the decision maker or that I have to be the one who has everything figured out. I want to operate from a place of service and devotion, and I'm willing to offer my input and everything else, but if I'm always the one who has to be in control, it's exhausting. Now, what women really want, they may say they want a man to take charge. They may say that they want a man who's going to take care of everything so that they can fully relax into their feminine, and some women will want that. But what I've observed is that there are many women who in fact don't want that. What they really want is a man to show up fully present and aware and able and not checked out. That's what they want. And they don't want to feel like they're his mother. Well, I don't blame a woman if she doesn't want to be a mother to her partner, because that honestly is one of the unsexiest things that could possibly happen. The good news is that you don't have to operate from that place. You can be a man fully in your sovereignty, aware of yourself and fully present. And you can do that from the place of recognizing that being a fully empowered man doesn't mean you have to give up every thing to perform leadership. You just have to be honest with yourself about what is real for you, what is congruent to your internal values. For me, what's congruent to my internal values is that I don't want to be in control of every aspect of a relationship. I don't want to be the one always making the decisions. I have no problem showing up and making decisions as and where needed, and sometimes I do in my relationship. But I also have no problem deferring to and really frankly honoring the feminine current as it comes through and being willing to serve in service from a place of devotion. The irony of this all too is that so often these men's coaches who are sharing this vision that men need to lead are saying this really because they're speaking to the fact that men want to be in relationship to their wives, but also that men want to have sex. Here's the truth. Both men and women want to have sex. This isn't a thing that's limited. Women want to feel safe. They want to feel like their man has got them and that they can be safe. And so this has been interpreted as, well, a man has to be in control. He needs to be in the lead. He needs to dominate. He needs to be the one who makes all the decisions. And so he shows her so that way she's not second guessing him, and so that she can fully relax and be in her being. And that is one expression. But it's not the only expression. I can be with a woman who wants to fully connect with me sexually and feel safe with me because she knows that I've got her. And I've got her from a place of service and devotion. I've got her because I show up and I pay attention to all the details and I ask things and I ask for help and all those other things, and it doesn't make me less. So I offer this to you because I think there is a lot of pressure on men to show up a very specific way. And I think there are men's coaches who mean well, but what they're really peddling and offering is a very limited and narrow perspective and definition of what masculinity looks like from an empowered and sovereign perspective. They may even make the argument that there's no such thing as a submissive man, that no man really wants to be told what to do. And I want to debunk that myth and just share that I don't necessarily want to be told what to do, but I do want to be with a woman who has no problem taking charge in the bedroom, or who has no problem being able to say, like, look, this is what I need from you, and I need you to show up in this way, or I need you to I need this from you. I like that. I find it to be a turn on. And I also have no problem being able to take the lead and take charge as and when needed, but I do it from a place of service. And there's a real difference, because I'm not holding on to this notion of power from a place of I have to be in control, or someone's told me I have to be in control. I mean, here's the irony of all this, men. If you're being told, if you're watching some of these different videos and things like that, and you're being told by a man that you have to lead, and so you're like, yeah, I have to do that. Or you're thinking like, I have to do this because this is the only way that she's going to really trust me and want to be with me and be safe. You're not leading. You're not leading. You're letting someone else tell you what to do. That's not leadership. That's submission and surrender. The only difference is that you're doing it from a place of from a place where you're accepting unconscious power dynamics, whether it's from that men's coach or it's from her or from someone else. And so you're basically being topped from the bottom, so to speak. That's not genuine control or leadership or anything else like that. So what's it really going to be? What does it mean to really take charge? I think it's really important to question the idea that men need to be dominant in relationships, that men need to be the one who lead. Sometimes that can be the case, but it's not always the case. And this isn't really even a question of like relationship dynamics so much as it's really a question of like, what do you really want and need within yourself? If you feel like you always have to be in control, what are you giving away in the process of having to always be in control? And how much pressure does that put on you? Now, if you're curious to explore these questions, I have an upcoming class on December 2nd called Sacred Yes, and there's a link below, and I would invite you to come and attend, because that is going to give you a chance to explore what it means to be a man from a perspective that isn't based in dominance, but is actually based in surrender and a letting go of the need to be in control of everything. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.